Hello out there, folks. How are you doing this week? Boy, we certainly had a busy week, did we not? There is so much here I want to get to. As promised, we're going to put Carly Fiorina under the microscope. I told you a few weeks ago we'd be looking at these candidates one at a time. Last week I brought you Dr. Ben Carson. This week we're going to take a look at Carly Fiorina. We're going to listen to her announcement, the video that she released where she said she's running for president, and we're going to take a look at her stance on some of the issues. Mark Halperin over at Bloomberg News, he has disgraced himself in front of the world. We will take a look at that. Is there infighting going on within the Islamic threat? This is really interesting. I've got a news article here that I want to share with you on that. Howard Dean, our buddy Howard Dean, Screamer Dean, he has hit a new high on the stupid comment-o-meter. We're going to take a look at what this guy had to say. George Stephanopoulos is getting himself hammered. He's in a lot of trouble now for the purchase of Clinton influence, as if he even needed to do that. So we will take a look at that. And you will not believe your ears when I play what Hillary Clinton said this past week about your religious beliefs. Actually, I think it was a few weeks ago. But I am going to play that as well. We've got Chris Matthews attacking Carly Fiorina. We've got this Prince concert in Baltimore and the trouble that's caused for Marilyn Mosby. We've got a bunch of stuff here, all here right now on this, The Ray Warner Show, hosted by me, Ray Warner. Thank you so much for listening in today. If you have any questions for me, any comments, any concerns, if you feel the need to rant or vent, feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. I did get some email last week from some people who liked the comment I made about ISIS, the Islamic State, welcoming them to Texas. Yeah, a lot of people thought that was good stuff. I still don't understand. I do not understand why these people thought that they could just do what they did over in Paris, France, down in Texas. That baffles me to this day. But anyway, as promised, we had a bunch of people jump in the race in 1 week. I think we even had 2 in 1 day. Dr. Ben Carson jumped in, and then later that afternoon, Carly Fiorina released her video. And this was her announcement video.
I'm getting ready to do something too. I'm running for president.
Our founders never intended us to have a professional political class. They believed that citizens and leaders needed to step forward. We know the only way to reimagine our government is to reimagine who is leading it. I'm Carly Fiorina, and I'm running for president. If you're tired of the sound bites, the vitriol, the pettiness, the egos, the corruption, if you believe that it's time to declare the end of identity politics, if you believe that it's time to declare the end of lowered expectations, if you believe that it's time for citizens to stand up to the political class and say enough, then join us. It's time for us to empower our citizens, to give them a voice in our government, to come together to fix what has been broken about our politics and our government for too long. Because we can do this together.
So you heard her listening to Hillary Clinton's video, or watching it. If you've seen her video, you actually see that she's watching Hillary on a TV and then clicks it off. And then says, do we really want another career politician? Loosely translated. And, I mean, Hillary is just from a time in the past, and I think that message is really going to resonate. It's kind of the same thing that Dr. Ben Carson had in his platform. Just talking about these career politicians, you get so sick of them. You get so sick of these people who their life becomes all about the latest focus group tested line, the latest maneuver, the latest spin. How do we do everything we can to put our bad news in a good light? So that was Carly Fiorina, and I got to tell you, the more I hear from this woman, the more I like her. I'm going to play. I've got a montage here. This is Carly Fiorina in various speeches and interviews, TV shows, and on a number of issues. You're going to hear her talk about Obama, about a child's right to life, her positions on foreign policy, what she thinks about or would do with the Islamic threat. She's going to talk about the economy, energy, women's issues, immigration, Obamacare, the police, everything. This is a montage of Carly Fiorina.
It is on the issue of life that the hypocrisy of liberals is at its most breathtaking. Liberals believe that flies are worth protecting, but the life of an unborn child is not. The majority of Americans and the majority of women agree that abortion after 5 months, for any reason at all, is extreme. And yet, politics apparently intervened to prevent the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act from being brought to the floor for a vote. This is disappointing because what it says is that once again, politics has triumphed over principle and expediency has triumphed over courage. Like Hillary Clinton, I too have traveled hundreds of thousands of miles around the globe. But unlike her, I've actually accomplished something. See, Mrs. Clinton, flying is not an accomplishment, it is an activity. I have met Vladimir Putin, and I know that it takes far more than a gimmicky red reset button to halt his ambition. Having done business in over 80 countries, having served as the chairman of the External Advisory Board at the Central Intelligence Agency for several years, I know that China and North Korea and Russia are state sponsors of cyber warfare. I know that China has a strategy to steal our intellectual property. I know Bibi Netanyahu, and I know that when he warns us that Iran is a threat to our nation and to his own, that we must listen. And unlike Hillary Clinton, I know what difference it makes that our American ambassador and 3 other brave Americans were killed in a deliberate terrorist attack on the anniversary of 9/11 in Libya. And apparently, unlike Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, I know our response must be more forceful than the arrest of a single individual 1 year later. If anyone who's undecided looks at the state of California, they see proof positive of what happens when liberal policies are permitted to go awry year after year after year. We have double-digit unemployment and entitlements that are choking the state. We have 4 cities already bankrupt. I mean, it's just a terrible mess. A free market to work well needs some regulation. There need to be some rules of the road. And certainly as we exploit our natural resources in this country, we need some regulation to make sure that we do so in an environmentally responsible way. But what we have now is an administration that is hostile to the production of energy, particularly natural gas, coal, fossil fuel. We've seen it. I think it's amazing that President Obama has poured $90 billion of taxpayer money into clean, green energy, all of which is going nowhere and can't solve the problem on its own. So the key is the right amount of regulation and the right regulations. And it's clear we have way too much. It's a thicket that's killing businesses of all sizes. The Democratic Party, honestly, has done, sadly, a masterful job of manipulating women, too many women, into believing that they are single-issue voters. Whether you are pro-life or pro-choice, I happen to be pro-life. But wherever you are on that issue, women balance the checkbooks at home, so they know the deficit is a problem. Women make the health care decisions, so they understand their health care premiums are going up. Women are half the workforce now. Women worry about their child's education. The point is, women care about all issues. We're not a special interest group. I think there is widespread agreement in the American public and in the Republican Party that we need immigration reform. I also think there is an opportunity, as you said, we need to make things better. Well, let's make this bill better. Let's do the things that we need to do to make it work. If anyone oversold Obamacare, it was President Obama. He laid out a set of goals, a set of promises about what this bill would do, and not a single one of them is coming true. In fact, just the opposite is happening. People's insurance premiums are going up. They can't actually keep their insurance plan. It actually is hurting small business. There's a set of proof points now that are causing the American public to say, you know what, this program isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. I think it's crystal clear that we have loads of laws, and most of the time, criminals are breaking those laws, and we are curtailing citizens' lawful rights to carry guns. The assault weapons ban is extremely arbitrary in what qualifies as an assault weapon. This is one of the reasons why I think it's so important that we give all police officers body cams so that there's no confusion about what actually happened after the fact. It's for their protection as much as anyone else's. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I'm so tired of this president only talking about the side of the issue that he wants to talk about. It lacks perspective, it lacks balance. It's not leadership at a critical time when the nation needs to be unified instead of divided, and he continues to seek to divide this nation. I have quite extensive national security credentials. I've met more world leaders on the world stage today than anyone else running. I sat as close to Vladimir Putin as you and I are sitting now. Bibi Netanyahu, the Chinese leadership, King Abdullah of Jordan, many, many others in every continent on the planet. I served as the chairman of the advisory board at the Central Intelligence Agency.
You had those meetings, but what would you do substantively differently?
Very specific things that our allies have asked us to do. First, I would arm the Kurds. We still haven't. Second, I would provide what King Abdullah of Jordan, a man I've known for many years, has asked us for, bombs and materiel. We haven't. Third, I would share intelligence with the Egyptians. They've asked us to do that. We haven't. And here we have a president of Egypt who is literally putting himself personally at risk to talk truthfully about what he calls the cancer in the heart of Islam. And this president says, when the head of Egypt bombs in response to the beheading of 21 Coptic Christians on Egyptian beaches, this president, our president, says he can neither condemn nor condone his actions. The truth is, President Obama always provides us with a false choice. If you don't agree with what I'm doing, there's nothing else to do but march off to war. It's simply untrue. We have allies all over the world who have asked us for very specific things. Stop talking to Iran. Please arm the Ukrainians. Please have exercises in the Baltic states. Please help the Australians push back against a newly assertive China. Please help us in the Arab Middle East fight ISIS. This administration has done none of it. And meanwhile, they've gotten totally confused about who are our allies and who are our adversaries. Remember that Hillary Clinton called Bashar al-Assad a positive reformer. And here we are still talking to Iran, when what we ought to be doing is stopping talking, exacting, punishing financial sanctions, which we can do unilaterally, until they submit to inspections. A couple months ago, I was nowhere in the polls. I'm not a professional politician, so I don't have the same name recognition. That's just a fact. Secondly, I started out as a secretary, as you may know, so I'm kind of used to being underestimated. It's the story of my life. Third, the thing about business, unlike politics, is business has facts in it, numbers in it. And so my track record at Hewlett-Packard is very clear. Together with the people of that great company, we took a business during the worst technology recession in 25 years. The NASDAQ has only now recovered, you may recall, after 15 years. We took a company and doubled it in size to almost $90 billion. We took the growth rate from 2% to 9%. We tripled the rate of innovation to 11 patents a day. We took it from a market laggard to a market leader in every product category. And yes, indeed, we grew jobs because we transformed a company that was falling behind and failing to one that was growing and succeeding.
So there you have a pretty good idea of her position. And like I said before, the more I hear from her, the more I like her as a candidate. I think she brings a lot to this race, and I can't wait to hear her in the debates. Now, she's already being attacked. Chris Matthews, now you know that when we elected the black guy as president, no one could say anything bad about the black guy. No one could attack the black guy, because if you did, you're racist. And so now they're putting Hillary Clinton out there, and the thing is going to be you're sexist, you're a woman hater, or you're some kind of, you can't attack the woman. That's what they're going to say. So Chris Matthews is trying to cut Carly Fiorina off at the pass. He made this comment on his show the other day.
Do you think Carly Fiorina has this notion in her head that she can get away with even scurrilous attacks on Secretary Clinton because she is a female? Do you think there's something going on there or not?
So you heard him ask, do you think Carly Fiorina has it in her head that she can get away with attacks on Hillary Clinton because she's a female? What kind of stupid question is this? If you listen to the quick reports, and you should, I played for you part of an interview between Mark Halperin and Ted Cruz, and I'm going to play the whole thing here in a little bit. But during that interview, you hear how obsessed some of these leftists are on race. And this guy hammered Ted Cruz over and over and over on his Cuban heritage. I don't know what in the world he was trying to do. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But here we go with Carly Fiorina and Chris Matthews jumping on the woman bandwagon. Does she have it in her head that she can get away with attacks on Hillary Clinton because she's a female? What kind of stupid question is that? Well, Carly Fiorina responded to this. This is from the Mike Gallagher show. She responded to Chris Matthews.
Dare I say that sounds pretty sexist to me? Or you're not allowed to criticize Hillary Clinton because you're a woman?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you remember Hillary Clinton in the 2014 election. She was out in Iowa, campaigning for Bruce Braley, and she said she was speaking of Joan Ernst, obviously. She said, it's not enough to be a woman. You have to be a woman who believes. And then she went through the liberal orthodoxy, and that is what they think. You just don't count as a woman unless you believe as they believe.
So as Fiorina says, Hillary Clinton's position, if you're a woman, is that's not good enough. You don't count as a woman. You just don't count unless you believe the way Hillary Clinton and the liberal left believes. And this is true across the board in liberalism. Liberals, if you're a liberal, that is your primary function. You are a liberal above and beyond anything else that you might be. You're a liberal before you're a woman. You're a liberal before you're black. You're a liberal before you're Hispanic. You're even a liberal before you're Jewish. It's hard for me to understand a Jewish person's position against their own country and for Obama, but there's people out there like that. The liberals, if you're a liberal, that comes before any other cause or any other group that you belong to. And Hillary Clinton is demonstrating this very principle by saying you don't count. If you're a woman, you don't count unless you believe the way we believe. As if women are somehow a minority like blacks or Hispanics. Women are not a minority, they're just women. That's half the population. But as far as Hillary Clinton is concerned, you don't count. You just don't count unless you're a liberal woman. Well, Carly Fiorina, after addressing Chris Matthews' foolishness, went on to talk about what she's really doing when she responds to Hillary Clinton.
I'm attacking Hillary Clinton's lack of accomplishment, not because she's a woman or because I'm a woman. I'm pointing it out because I come from a world where we are held accountable, where words are just words and speeches are just speeches and flying around is just flying around. The world that I come from, we are held accountable for our actions, for our results, for what we accomplish. And I think we need to hold her accountable.
So unlike what Chris Matthews would do as far as taking a look at Hillary Clinton is concerned, Carly Fiorina is saying, she comes from a world where the results matter, where your accomplishments matter. And if we take a look at Hillary Clinton and we take a look at the things that matter, we start looking at things like Benghazi. We start looking at things like Servergate. We take a look at the reset button. We take a look at the criminal acts that were going on as Secretary of State, where she's going around soliciting funds for the Clinton Crime Foundation while she's serving as Secretary of State. Illegal, straight up illegal. And what's she doing? She's running for president. She's campaigning for your vote, or at least she says she is. There's no evidence of it, but she says she's doing that. So there you have a good look at Carly Fiorina, inside and out as promised. And there's plenty more to come, folks, so don't go away.
You are listening to The Ray Warner Show.
A creative experience unlike any other is waiting for you at Hobby Lobby. Arts and crafts, fabric, scrapbooking, floral, home accents, and so much more. Come and explore Hobby Lobby and find more than you could have ever imagined. Inspiration, innovation, and creation all in one place. Everything you need to bring your creativity to life is here at Hobby Lobby.
Israel, a nation born of liberty, freedom, and hope, America's unwavering friend, Israel is now fighting for its survival against an enemy who thinks nothing of sacrificing Palestinian women and children as human shields.
Hamas is using its own children as human shields.
A nearby mosque is boasting about rockets being fired at Jerusalem, at Tel Aviv, at Haifa.
It's hard to comprehend, but it's true. As Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said, here's the difference. We're using missile defense to protect our civilians, and they're using their civilians to protect their missiles. Hamas thinks nothing of killing innocent Israelis and Americans. Hamas took billions in humanitarian aid meant for schools and hospitals and used the money for the tools of war, terror tunnels, and weapons. Stand up to this outrage. Make your voice heard. Visit StopHamasNow.com and sign our petition.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for still listening. This is The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. If you want to email the show, if you have any questions for me, any comments, any concerns, any feedback, if you just want to tell me to shut up, you feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. You know, this brings me to Hillary Clinton, because is she running for president or not? I mean, just because you go to the ballpark doesn't mean you're in the game. Just because you go to the NASCAR track doesn't mean you're in the race. Is she running for president or not? Because I got news. This is what running for president sounds like.
Humans are not responsible for climate change. Did you say that?
What I said is humans are not responsible for climate change in the way some of these people out there are trying to make us believe.
The Senate can't even process a budget in the Senate right now. How do we shift the narrative to start talking about surpluses?
Well, you know, I think we would get surpluses almost immediately if we changed our policies.
Many conservatives have said what she's been doing is wrong. Where do you stand?
Well, it clearly was provocative, just like white supremacists demonstrating is provocative.
But you would equate with that, with white supremacists.
And yet, we do protect free speech.
Senator, you're a guy who's known for taking on your own party. How can you win the nomination unless you build a much broader coalition than the one you already have?
We need to bring together the old Reagan coalition of conservatives and evangelicals and libertarians and Republican women and young people and Hispanics and Reagan Democrats. You got to bring everyone together.
Now, you heard in there, that was Ben Carson, that was Ted Cruz, that was Fiorina, that was Rubio. These are people that are running for president. They are putting themselves out there. They are subjecting themselves to interviews, in some cases some tough interviews. What is Hillary Clinton doing besides driving around in her Scooby-Doo van and just, you know, having her little summit meetings in pristine, clean garages and whatnot? What is she doing? She refuses to put herself before the media. She refuses to take questions. Ben Carson even took questions from the small audience that was gathered there in the studio. Not only did he take Hannity's questions, he was taking questions from people in the audience on the fly. What is Hillary Clinton doing besides hiding from the media? I'm sure she wants to run for president, but she needs to start doing it. She needs to start running for president and stop talking about how she's running for president. Now, Mark Halperin, as I said earlier, was interviewing Ted Cruz, and once again, we have a leftist just obsessed with race. We have a leftist just being completely disrespectful to a Republican candidate for president. And Ted Cruz, you talk about class. You talk about a class act. You talk about grace under pressure, under the pressure of being involved in a rude interview with an angry liberal. Anyway, let me just play this for you from front to back. Like I said, I played a bit of it, or some highlights of it during the quick report. I want to play the whole thing. It's kind of hard to listen to. And even some of Mark Halperin's colleagues in the media said it was difficult to listen to. It's difficult to get through, but do your best. Here's that interview.
Ted Cruz joining us now from Capitol Hill. Your colleague, Bernie Sanders of Vermont, another senator, announced he was going to also run for president from the other party. What's your appraisal of his candidacy, and can we hear your very good and very respectful imitation of Senator Sanders?
Well, I think I'll avoid the business of trying to do imitations of my colleagues. But I will say, I certainly welcome Bernie Sanders to the race, and I'll give him credit for candor. Bernie Sanders ran for years as a socialist. He was on the ballot in Vermont. He said, look, Democrat didn't quite describe him. He ran as a socialist. I think that's honest and straightforward, and it'll be a healthy debate for Democrats to have as just to what degree of socialism they want to embrace. I think Hillary's economic policies often end up pretty close to Bernie Sanders, and it'll be interesting having her explain whether or not she agrees with Bernie Sanders with policies that he'll describe as socialist, and whether she thinks that those are good policies for this country.
All right, Senator, part of the reason we wanted to talk to you today was a speech you gave yesterday to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I know Al knows that a big part of your argument in terms of the party's appeal to Hispanic voters is simply talking about an economic agenda that you think should appeal to them. But let me ask you, it seems to me your last name is Cruz and you're from Texas. Just based on that, should you have appeal to Hispanic voters?
Well, I'll tell you, when I ran for Senate in Texas, I was very proud to receive 40% of the Hispanic vote in Texas. And I think the reason is that my family story, my personal experience is an experience that resonates in the Hispanic community. In 1957, my dad fled Cuba. He was penniless. He couldn't speak English. He'd been in prison. He'd been tortured. He had just $100 in his underwear. And he washed dishes, making 50 cents an hour, paid his way through school, went on to start a small business. Today he's a pastor. And that experience, my dad is my hero. And his story is emblematic of all of our stories. Every one of us. Mark, you have a story like that in your background. All of us, it's who we are as Americans. And in my experience, that personal experience resonates powerfully in the Hispanic community. And the reason I'm in politics is to fight for people like my dad, teenage immigrants, washing dishes, trying to achieve the American dream, and they're the ones that are getting hurt right now under the Obama economy.
Senator, people are really interested in you and your identity, so I just want to ask you, as a historical matter, when you filled out your application to Princeton, to Harvard Law School, did you list yourself as an Hispanic?
Oh, sure. I've listed myself as Cuban American. That's my heritage and my background.
I want to close with talk a little bit more about your Cuban heritage and ask you in the following categories whether you have an affinity for or a connection to anything part of your Cuban past. You got a favorite Cuban food, Cuban dish?
Oh, I grew up eating Cuban food all the time.
What's your
my
favorite
grandparents.
dish?
Picadillo. I grew up eating all the time. We had plantains. We had beans and rice. For Christmas, we would roast a whole pig a lot of years for Christmas Eve. And so my grandparents, my abuelo and abuela, they didn't speak English, and my abuela was an incredible cook. All
right, favorite. You like Cuban music? You have a favorite Cuban singer?
I have to admit, in that I'm much more of a Texan. I tend to listen to country music more than Cuban music.
All right. And finally, on the political front, Senator, what is your aspiration for the Republican presidential nominee in 2016? What percentage of the Hispanic vote, Latino vote, would you think the party could get?
Look, ideally, I think the Republican Party should be winning a majority of the Hispanic vote. We haven't historically been able to do that. But if you look at who has been hurt under the Obama economy, the Hispanic community has been hammered. It is far worse off. The rich are doing great under the Obama economy, but the most vulnerable, young people, Hispanics, African Americans, single moms, their lives have gotten harder and harder and harder. And I intend to campaign in the Hispanic community and across this country on expanding jobs and growth and opportunity for everyone to achieve the American dream. And I also intend to campaign vigorously on school choice, which I think is the civil rights issue of the 21st century, that every child, regardless of race, ethnicity, wealth, or zip code, deserves an opportunity to receive an excellent education.
All right, finally, I wanted to give you the opportunity to directly welcome your colleague, Senator Sanders, to the race, and I'd like you to do it, if you would, en español.
I'm going to stick to English, but I appreciate the invitation, senor.
All right.
Now, you talk about rude, just downright rude. And you hear what's your favorite dish? The Cuban, what's your favorite Cuban dish? He's not going to let him get away with saying, oh, I ate beans and rice. What's your favorite dish? He's trying to make him prove that he's Cuban. Speak in Spanish. Who's your favorite Cuban singer? Who's your favorite, he is so, he has no idea himself I'm sure Mark Halperin, he probably doesn't even know any Cuban dishes. He probably doesn't even know any Cuban entertainers. But here he is hammering Ted Cruz on his Cuban heritage. Just hammering away. I mean, I think I said in the quick report, what does he want? His Desi Arnaz imitation, singing Babalu like on the Lucy show? Just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And Ted Cruz, I can't say enough how he handled that with such grace, because I know I wouldn't have. Now, another leftist out there getting himself in trouble is George Stephanopoulos. He is getting hammered, as I said earlier, for his purchase of Clinton influence. Now, for those of you who don't know, George Stephanopoulos was part of the Clinton War Room. And this goes back to the Clinton presidency. George Stephanopoulos is like the opposite of Karl Rove. This is a guy who he's hired to run campaigns. That's what he is. He's a political guy. Now he's working in the media. I don't know how that happened, because he has no media credentials whatsoever. He's not a journalist. This guy is a campaign advisor. He runs campaigns. And during the Clinton presidency, this guy was in the war room. Now, when I say the war room, you got to understand, I'm sure President Clinton had a war room. And, he had his daily presidential security briefing, and he got, I'm sure there was a war room somewhere. I don't know if it's in the basement of the White House or where you go, where you get, you're in touch with the four corners of the earth and everything that's going on around the globe. But I'm talking about the secondary war room. And this is the war room where they discussed how to head off scandals and how to lie about this and how to spin that. And, this is where they discussed how to destroy Monica Lewinsky and how to destroy Jennifer Flowers. And, this is where they came up with, I smoked, but I didn't inhale. Stuff like that. It depends on what your definition of is. This is that war room. This is the Clinton scandal war room. Okay. And it's also the Clinton crime war room. Let's just call it that. George Stephanopoulos sat in on that. He was part of that. Not only did he run the campaign, he was part of this war room. He's a Clintonite through and through. And now he's in the media. And of course, he donates heavily to the Clinton causes. At first, they said he gave $50,000. Now, the last number I heard was he gave $75,000 to the Clinton Crime Foundation. And of course, we all know it's just to buy Clinton influence. And so he offered up this apology.
Now I want to address some news you may have seen about me. Over the last several years, I've made substantial donations to dozens of charities, including the Clinton Global Foundation. Those donations were a matter of public record, but I should have made additional disclosures on air when we covered the foundation. And I now believe that directing personal donations to that foundation was a mistake. Even though I made them strictly to support work done to stop the spread of AIDS, help children, and protect the environment in poor countries, I should have gone the extra mile to avoid even the appearance of a conflict. I apologize to all of you for failing to do that.
So I like how he just talks about how I donate to many charities, including the Clinton Foundation. And in doing so, I'm trying to help feed the poor and help the climate in Africa and all these wonderful liberal causes. And in doing so, I should have went the extra mile. I didn't have to do this. I didn't have to. It's not the law, and it's all public record anyway, but I should have went the extra mile just for you. And I didn't do that, and I apologize. If you ask me, it's kind of a condescending apology, but an apology nonetheless. Now, don't think that George Stephanopoulos for 1 second is going to get the Brian Williams treatment. George Stephanopoulos he's right in there, like I said, with the Clintons and in the Clinton war room. There is no way he is going to get the Brian Williams treatment. This guy knows where the bodies are buried. This guy probably helped bury the bodies. You don't think there's anything fishy about nearly 100 people in the Clintons' past having died mysteriously, accidentally, food poisoning, suicide, car and plane accidents? Yeah, George Stephanopoulos, he's a big part of that, I'm sure. He has to be. And he is not going to get the Brian Williams treatment. Just don't count on that. Now, Prince had a concert in Baltimore. Tell me if you think that this is a conflict of interest. In this concert, he talked about some of this garbage that's going on in Ferguson and in Baltimore, with Freddie Gray and all that. Just listen to the words in this song that he performed.
Nobody got in nobody's way, so I guess you could say it was a good day. At least a little better than the day in Baltimore. Does anybody hear us pray for Michael Brown or Freddie Gray? Peace is more than the absence of war.
Now, I don't know anything about Prince as far as his politics go. To be honest, I have no idea if this guy's Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. These guys, they try to, most of them anyway, try to keep all that on the down low, like Michael Jordan, and they just want as many fans as they can get. They don't want to get into politics because that divides people. But if he's singing the way he's singing, and we glean what we can from this song that he wrote and is performing, well, it kind of seems like he's on a certain side of the whole thing going on over there in Baltimore. It kind of sounds like he's on the side of the rioting people. Now, the biggest problem with this concert is the fact that Marilyn Mosby, who is supposed to be an unbiased representative in her investigating and in charging these police officers and trying to get to the truth of what happened with Freddie Gray, she's on stage, not in the audience, on the stage as Prince is singing this song. Is that not a conflict of interest? I think this woman definitely needs to recuse herself from this case. They need to move the case outside of Baltimore. She has so screwed this thing up. The mayor has screwed this thing up. It's ridiculous what's going on. The incompetence is just galloping through Baltimore, just galloping. And it really is starting to look bad. We have video of Freddie Gray climbing into the van on his own power, and then somehow he ended up hurting himself in the van. And she charged these cops, or at least one of them, with murder? Does she really think she can make this stick? It's time for her to just recuse herself, let somebody else handle it, somebody who's not going to botch this thing up. Hillary Clinton said something very interesting at the Women in the World Summit back on April 23rd. Listen to this.
But far too many women are still denied critical access to reproductive health care and safe childbirth. All the laws we've passed don't count for much if they're not enforced. Rights have to exist in practice, not just on paper. Laws have to be backed up with resources and political will. And deep-seated cultural codes, religious beliefs, and structural biases have to be changed.
Do you realize what she just said? Let's get the word religious out of it. I said before that Hillary made a comment about religious beliefs. Let's get the word religious out of it. If you're a Bible-believing Christian, as I am, and you just heard Hillary Clinton say that far too many, this is what she said, far too many women are denied access to reproductive health care and safe childbirth, and laws don't count for much if they're not enforced. Rights have to exist in practice, not just on paper. Laws have to be backed up with resources and political will. And deep-seated cultural codes, religious beliefs, and structural biases have to be changed. Let me play you her comment, edited slightly.
Laws have to be backed up with resources and political will, and religious beliefs have to be changed.
Religious beliefs have to be changed. How do you change a religious belief? Hillary Clinton just said that Christians need to deny their faith. That's what she said. Your religious belief needs to be changed. Doesn't matter what you believe, we need to change that. And it needs to happen through the enforcement of laws. Is this starting to scare anybody? You know, if you believe, if you're pro-life, okay, and I don't even like to say pro-life, I like to just say it's a child's right to life. Let's just call it that. If that's what you believe, that has to change. And if that belief comes from a faith in the Bible and in the God of the Bible, that has to change. And she wants to do it through what she called political will, through resources, through laws, through enforcement of laws. She's essentially saying that Christians have to deny their faith. That's what she's saying. And she couched it in this whole reproductive health care argument. I'm so sick of hearing this. Women are being denied access to reproductive health care and safe childbirth. Are they? They're being denied this? Is there a woman in this country that is being denied reproductive health care? Is there a woman in this country being denied safe childbirth? If you are pregnant and you go into a hospital in labor, you're going to deliver that baby in the hospital. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your party affiliation is. It doesn't matter whether you can afford it or not, or if you even have insurance. You are going to have that baby in that hospital. A hospital is not going to turn away anybody. No one is going to be denied safe childbirth. That is a ridiculous argument. And she uses that argument to couch her threat to change religious beliefs through the force of law. And this woman wants to run for president. This woman wants my vote. She's got another thing coming. We'll be back, folks. Stay right there.
This is the Ray Warner Show, with a podcast every day, unless we have technical problems, but that never happens.
You have reached the Bovine Chicken Chat Line, where you can chat with tons and tons of cows about chicken. All our cows are busy. While you're waiting, why not get to know some of these fuzzy fans of chicken? Heifer 9672 is a 1,200-pounder from Kentucky who likes long walks in the pasture, watching cars go by from the pasture, and eating the pasture. She's also an aspiring author, writing a book called The Burgers of Wrath. Bull 5441 is a bull from Chicago with a pierced nose and a nasty temper. But he loves people who eat chicken and the good folks at Chick-fil-A who make the chicken. Bull 5441's pet peeves are cow tipping and the color red, especially when it's meat. All our cows are still busy. Please try calling the Bovine Chicken Chat Line later. The cows thank you for calling and for not eating burgers. This call made possible by Chick-fil-A.
Shocking news. 666, the mark of the beast in the NIV. God said, man said.com.
Bible rewires addicts' brains. Geologists floored by water rock. God said, man said.com.
Dinosaurs and man contemporaneously. Hours of text and audio. God said, man said.com.
Radiometric dating in a 6,000-year-old Earth. Honey and the finger of God. Free love's deadly superbug. God said, man said.com.
Our founding fathers here in this country brought about the only true revolution that has ever taken place in man's history. Every other revolution simply exchanged one set of rulers for another set of rulers. But only here did that little band of men so advance beyond their time that the world has never seen their like since, evolve the idea that you and I have within ourselves the God-given right and the ability to determine our own destiny. But freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free. Thank you.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for listening today. This is The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. If you want to email the show, if you have any comments, any questions, any concerns, or any feedback for me or for the show, feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. Now, as I said in the opening segment, Howard Dean said something this week Howard Dean, those of you who listen to me regularly know that I've always said it's Susan Rice that the administration shoves in front of the camera when they have something really dumb to say. And Susan Rice apparently has no problem with going out there and embarrassing herself. She'll go out there and she'll say whatever. 5 times in one day, she went out there and said that the Benghazi attack happened because of a video that no one had ever seen. 5 times in one day she said this. It was Susan Rice who went out there talking about Bo Bergdahl serving with honor and distinction. And, people bringing up, well, what about, he abandoned his unit and he was a traitor and it was an act of treason. He was helping the enemy. We lost soldiers looking for him. And she was the one who, it was all that stuff, but he's back. He's back. This is Susan Rice. Okay. And then, of course, the administration has the dynamic duo of Jen Psaki and Marie Harf. This is like the female version of Dumb and Dumber. This is where we got the plan that we're going to kill the Islamic threat with jobs. She's going to bomb them with jobs. Remember that? This is the woman who, my comments are just too nuanced for you. You just don't understand. This is these people. Howard Dean, though, he's an enigma because he's not being paid to say the dumb things he says. And he has said some whoppers, and I've played them for you, but this is pretty good. I want you to hear what Howard Dean said about Jesus Christ the other day.
Let me share some incredibly interesting polling data that we got 10 years ago when I was running the DNC. I was wondering why evangelicals didn't vote for Democrats, because if you look at the red letter version of the Bible, that Jesus was probably the left of the Democratic Party.
So you heard our buddy, Howard Dean, say Jesus was to the left of the Democrat Party. Does he mean to the left of the Democrat Party today? Is that what he means? Jesus is to the left of killing babies in the womb. Jesus is he not only supports it, he's to the left of that. Jesus is to the left of global warming. Not only does he support global warming, he's to the left of that. Jesus is to the left of homosexual unions. He's to the left of that. The very almighty sovereign God of the universe who created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, is to the left, not only supports, but is to the left of homosexual unions. Jesus is to the left of perpetuating the hands up, don't shoot lie. Not only does he support the hands up, don't shoot lie, I'm sure if Jesus Christ were to land right now during the second advent, that the first thing he would do is say, hands up, don't shoot, right, with his hands up. Not only does he support this, he's to the left of that. I could go on all day, folks. All day with these stupid liberal policies, and Jesus was to the left of that. This is what Howard Dean said. If you're a biologist out there or a neurosurgeon or whatever you have to be to understand the brain, I want to know what chemical in the brain do you either have not enough of or do you have too much of that causes you to say stupid things like this. Jesus is to the left of the Democrat Party today. That's just insane. Radically insane. There is something wrong with Howard Dean is what I like to call dumb, dipped in stupid. That's what he is. How in the world do you come up with Jesus is to the left of the Democrat Party? That's your buddy and mine, Howard Dean. Who knows what he'll say next? Have you noticed you haven't heard from Joe Biden lately? Joe Biden is on a leash that's so short, it's not even funny. They don't like to let him out anywhere, especially off script. Now, I told you I had some stories here. This is from Breitbart. The headline, ISIS-linked group launches 2 bombs at Hamas targets in growing inter-jihadi conflict. Remember I said this? Is there infighting going on in the Islamic threat? I said that in the opening segment. A jihadist group formerly affiliated with the Islamic State. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. It's Ansar. Okay, I am trying. Ansar Bait al-Mahdi. Anyway, it's a jihadi group formerly affiliated with the Islamic State, has claimed responsibility for 2 mortar shells launched at Hamas targets in Gaza. The attack supports a growing war of words triggered by mass arrests of ISIS supporters by the Palestinian terror group. So these guys don't even have their act together. The Islamic threat. You got Hamas fighting ISIS. The article goes on. Arutz Shiva reports that the group attacked targets related to the Al-Qassam brigades, the military wing of Hamas, which also politically runs Gaza. Ansar Bait al-Mahdi allegedly also sent warnings to Gazan civilians that they would bomb the area, asking them to distance yourselves from military and security posts and guard your lives. So they're taking lessons from Israel. This is what Israel does when they need to bomb Hamas. They warn the citizens. They say, hey, get out of there. We know Hamas has weapons in that school or in that mosque or in that apartment. Get the heck out because we're dropping bombs. The message taking credit for the attack also mentioned ISIS supporters currently under custody of Hamas, whom they vowed to liberate. So this is definitely interesting. I'm all for these guys going to war and destroying one another. I think we just need to get out of the way and let that happen. And last but not least, before I go, I wanted to get to this story. An armed citizen stops suspect's furious assault on a cop. On Tuesday, an armed citizen drew his gun and intervened to save an Oklahoma City police officer who was separated from his fellow officer during a foot chase and was allegedly being savagely beaten by a burglary suspect. The incident happened at approximately 2 p.m. Rookie officer Adam Eller and field training officer Sergeant Michael Lambert responded to a burglary call, then became separated while chasing suspect Jermaine Williams on foot. Eller was able to corner Williams in a driveway, only to have Williams allegedly fight instead of comply with arrest orders. During the fight, Williams was able to take Eller's police baton and then proceeded to strike him over the head somewhere between 6 and 12 times. As the fight continued, an armed citizen approached the two with his gun drawn. He told the suspect he was going to shoot if he did not stop hitting the officer. Williams complied. Williams was taken into custody and booked into jail. Officer Eller was rushed to OU Medical Center with serious injuries, but was released on Wednesday and is expected to make a full recovery. The name of the citizen who intervened to save the officer has not been released. So how do you like that? Everybody out there who thinks guns are bad, guns kill people. No, this gun probably saved an officer's life. An armed citizen intervening when a police officer was getting hurt. You know, and I wanted to talk about what's going on in Baltimore for a minute. You look at what's happening there. Baltimore is like the bluest of the blue. And all the rioting and all of the stuff that's going on there, this crazy city attorney, Marilyn Mosby, out there, and for all intents and purposes, looks to me like she's just one of the crowd. She's just one of the people that would be rioting, except she made it to be, you know, she got to be city attorney. She went to law school, and now she's a lawyer. You know, who's angry? I saw the other day that 2 people who were arrested in the riot actually work at the county jail. Two black female county jailers, correction officers, were caught rioting and arrested for rioting or for taking part or whatever their part was in the riot. We saw what went on in Ferguson, you know, and what is baffling to me, I cannot figure this out. So maybe somebody can help me out. Trayvon Martin was beating the crap out of George Zimmerman, and George Zimmerman drew his gun and killed Trayvon Martin to save his life. Michael Brown was trying to get the gun away from Officer Wilson, and Officer Wilson told him to stop, told him to stand down, told him to get on the ground. First of all he wanted him to do was get out of the street. Didn't even know he was a strong-arm robbery suspect. Michael Brown started beating on the officer, punching the officer, trying to get his gun, tried to run away, and then charged the officer. When Officer Wilson was pursuing, he turned around and charged the officer. And then, of course, the hands up, don't shoot lie ensued. We had Eric Garner up in Staten Island, who was being arrested and thought somehow that he was going to fight his way out of that. And he had a heart attack during his struggle and died in police custody. And then we have Freddie Gray, who was seen on video getting into the wagon himself, getting into the van, and then all of a sudden was discovered unconscious in the van. Because as according to another prisoner, he was thrashing around in there trying to hurt himself. Managed to severely cut his own spinal cord in the neck somewhere, 80% of it anyway. And we have rioting for that, and police charged with murder, which is ridiculous. But what I can't figure out is, after all of these cases, we have, and I'm sure if my audience has seen it, we have a legitimate case that these people are looking for. And that was in Charleston, South Carolina, where a white cop shot a black guy who was running away, shot him in the back like 8 times, and then lied about it, that he was trying to get his taser. You can see in the video him pick up the taser, walk over there, and drop it next to the guy's body. I mean, you talk about the case that they're looking for. This is what they've been waiting for. They're trying to make this case out of all the others. They're trying to make what happened in Charleston the same thing everywhere else. They tried to make it in the Trayvon Martin case. They tried to make it in the Michael Brown case, in the Eric Garner case, and now they're trying to do that with the Freddie Gray case. But nobody cares about what happened in Charleston. The real deal, the actual thing, a white cop shooting a black guy in the back while he's running away. That's what actually happened, and nobody cares. I don't even know the guy's name. Do you know the guy's name who was shot? We haven't heard it. We haven't heard from the media on this. Al Sharpton hasn't been there. There hasn't been any rioting over there. Nobody cares. It's amazing to me, and it's baffling. I mean, this is the real deal. This is the case they've been looking for. This is the case they have been trying to build out of the others. They have it right there in front of them to exploit, and they're not doing it. I don't understand that. I don't understand how you go around trying to make something out of nothing your whole life, and then when the real thing comes along, you don't get involved. Something that you don't have to lie. You can actually go there and tell the truth. Al Sharpton could go there and tell the truth, and he's not doing it. I don't understand that. They have a real case, and they don't care. What does that tell you? It's really not about white cop shooting a black guy. It can't be. Because if it was, there it is. And they don't care. Can someone explain that to me? That's it for this week, folks. Thank you again so much for listening in today. And don't forget, if you want to email me, if you have any comments, any questions, any concerns, or any feedback, or if you have music requests, I get those in the email. Maybe you just want to tell me to shut up. You go right ahead. You feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow, all one word, @gmail.com. And if you haven't seen it, there's an opinion page there. I post articles that I receive in the mail, articles that people write. If you have an article that you'd like to write and send to me, feel free. I'll post it there. I don't care if you're right-leaning or left-leaning, doesn't matter. As long as your article tells the truth, I'll post it. So if you have something you want to write, feel free and send it to me and I'll post it there. And I don't know how you listen to The Ray Warner Show. I don't know how you're listening right now or to the Quick Reports. But there are any number of ways that you can listen. If you go to theraywarnershow.com, you can subscribe and you'll get a link in your email. You can also subscribe at the Ray Warner Show YouTube channel. You can see the show there and subscribe. Every show I post on the Facebook and on the Twitter. So if you follow us in that social media, you'll be able to get the show. And also it's on iTunes. So if you go to iTunes, you can subscribe there. You can download it there. You can also download from the website, theraywarnershow.com. However you listen, I am so thankful that you do. And we will see you next week. So long, folks.